encourage discussion. So Outdoors Queensland respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands where we gather across Queensland, and for those from interstate. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples play on the land, sky and waterways used for outdoor activities. I'm in Brisbane, or Meanjin, on Yuggera country, and I'd just like to invite you to pop in the chat the place and the country you're joining from today, if you'd like to do that. We also acknowledge the funding provided by the Queensland Government to support outdoor activities right across our state. So my name's Dom Courtney. I'm the Executive Officer of Outdoors Queensland. Our Marketing and Communications Manager, Christy Lorish, is my co-host for today's session, as Mark Squires is on a much-deserved holiday at the moment. So I'd like to welcome all members of Outdoors Queensland, plus any others who are joining us, including reps from interstate organisations. I did notice that we've got Dave Batt, one of Outdoors Queensland's life members on the call, so welcome Dave. As I said, the recordings will be available on our website, and this is our 10th scheduled episode of Coffee and Conversation for 2021, so the year is moving along. Just got a bit of an agenda there. Quite a few topics to talk about, but also if anyone has any other topics, please feel free to pop something in the chat or speak up when you get a chance. More than happy to add extra things into that agenda, that it is a bustling agenda. And at the top there, National Volunteer Week. So that's this week. It's Australia's largest annual celebration of volunteers, celebrating contributions of Australia's almost 6 million volunteers who dedicate over 600 million hours every year to help others. So the outdoor sector really runs on volunteer workers alongside paid workers, plus the volunteers like the SES who help out every now and again when some of us get in trouble. So the theme this year is Recognise, Reconnect and Reimagine, which is a pretty cool collection of words to talk to about volunteers. So I'd like to recognise the volunteers who support Outdoors Queensland, particularly our board members, and say a big thank you for the work that they do and that all volunteers do. Moving right along, speaking of recognition, the Outdoors Queensland Awards, they recognise excellence in the outdoor community. So our awards celebrate individuals, organisations, programs, events and activities that have been successful in improving outcomes for participants, clients and communities. So it's the good stuff that many people and organisations do outdoors in Queensland. So our nominations will open up in June. You don't need to be a member to nominate, but doesn't mean you shouldn't become a member if you're not one. You can nominate yourself or your organisation, and you can nominate others, and you can make more than one nomination if you like. There's not much point nominating yourself multiple times. That might be a bit time consuming, but you can nominate different people or organisations if you like. So Christy's just shared the link there. So thanks for doing that, Christy. So the link to the awards. So just a reminder, start thinking about the nominations. They won't close until I think it's August, but it's worth having a think about it and looking at that as an opportunity to recognise someone or an organisation that is doing terrific things in the outdoors. And speaking of organisations doing terrific things in the outdoors, geez, you'd almost think I planned this. Jay Henderson from Australian Camps Association is joining us and is going to speak about the Camp and Adventure accreditation. So I'll hand over to Jay. Thank you very much for joining us today, Jay.
Good on you, Dom. Thank you very much for the invitation and good morning to everyone from, misty, cold Melbourne, where I sit in the Australian Camps Association office. I'm the convener of the Quality Tourism Framework Camp and Adventure Accreditation Advisory Committee. So there's a mouthful for you. And this is a presentation that it's an abridged presentation that was done at the ACA National Conference last month. So just wanted to take maybe 8 to 10 minutes of your time just to explain what's happening with the accreditation scheme and how you might be involved. Thanks, Dom. So the scheme is auspiced by the Australian Tourism Industry Council and managed via each of its state or territory tourism industry councils. And as you can see there, it's really on about reliability, quality and success as a marker for not only camp and outdoor adventure providers, but also the tourism sector more broadly. So schemes like this have been around for a long time. And if you see on the next slide, thanks, Dom, that the Camping Association of Victoria first started its camping accreditation scheme back in 1988. So I think we're talking 33 years that we've been accrediting camps here in Victoria, and that subsequently morphed into the Australian Camps Association and is now the subject of a memorandum of understanding with those tourism authorities that I've mentioned to you before. So there are various steps along the way, which I'll explain pretty briefly, but there's always been a camps advisory committee that helped with the implementation with the merger of the ACA scheme into that of the ATIC scheme. Thanks, Dom. And so that's really just an explanation of ATIC as it's a federation model, something we're fairly used to in this country. So there will be slight differences between what schemes are on offer and how they're managed from individual states and territories who operate the scheme under licence. Thanks, Dom. And so you've already seen the Camp and Adventure accredited business logo that Dom introduced this session with. They run a number of other sessions, number of other schemes, as you can see there by the various logos, including their newest one, of course, which is the COVID clean one. We're more focused really on the Camp and Adventure accredited business model, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Thanks, Dom. So it's substantially an online process where people will be given access to everything online in terms of the various steps and modules that a business needs to work through around licenses, insurance, human resources, child protection policies, all of those sorts of things that you're well used to with the operation of your businesses up there. It's really about, I suppose, having it all in one place and I guess verified by an organisation that's used to doing that sort of thing. Thanks again. So in terms of the time that it's going to take for a business to actually sign on to the scheme, it really is dependent on the size of the organisation. It probably depends a little bit on how long you've been around, whether you've got ready access to the sorts of documents and the information, and most businesses would. So it's fair to say that that many businesses in the outdoors and certainly camps are well used to the sort of documentation that needs to be kept. The scheme starts from $480. If you're an ACA member, that comes with a discount. And the documentation, there are templates, policies, procedures as part of that online process that people can use and modify and adapt to their situation. So the steps to accreditation are to complete the online assessment, have it reviewed and approved online, to receive an on-site verification visit. There's a yearly renewal on the whole process, and then every 3 years there's a full revisal of the scheme and another visit from a verification officer. Thanks, Dom. So, I mean, we believe basically that apart from being able to brand and to use the golden tick or the yellow tick for promotional stuff and for advertising. It's about actually having recognition around a scheme that says that we subscribe to certain standards and that users of our services can have greater confidence and satisfaction and hopefully lead to repeat business. For your customers, well, it does signal a commitment to quality, reliability, consistency. It satisfies safety and security needs, and it is a recognised national program. Thanks, Dom. The advisory committee was reformed in late last year as part of the memorandum of understanding between the Australian Camps Association and the Australian Tourism Industry Council. And so I've been on board part-time since late last year to work with a committee which is broadly representative across the country, but also across experience with the accreditation schemes in its various forms across the 33 years. And it is providing advice on content, changes and updated industry practices, and is really looking to, in the process of the reviewing, try and actually streamline things, make it easier for users to sign on to the scheme. And the other part of the MOU, from our point of view, is to look more closely at the recruitment, selection and training of verification officers. And more specifically, we're looking to have verification officers who are really au fait with the AAAS, so the Australian Adventure Standards. So we want that to be a key element of the scheme going forward. Thanks, Dom. So the committee in the last 4 months, 5 months has been dealing with a range of issues, including insurance for the sector, and we managed to get a keynote speech at the national conference that dealt with the broader issues around insurance. Of course, everybody's been dealing with COVID-19, and from where I sit, I think the ACA, in conjunction with organisations like QORF, have worked really, really effectively over the last 12 months to deal with that as an issue and to make it as easy as possible for members and others to actually operate in the sector. In terms of the initiatives, I've already mentioned that we're looking to remove duplication where it exists, try and deal with insurance issues, but also move forward with recognition by education authorities and schools. You might be interested to know that of ACA members in Victoria, and I think there's probably about 200 camps, by my calculation, about 95% of them are accredited under the scheme. And that is largely because when the scheme first started in Victoria on the back of the Ash Wednesday bushfires in 1983, the Camps Association worked closely with the Department of Education in Victoria, and they went ahead and mandated that all DET schools must go to an accredited campsite. Now that still exists today, so you might call it a stick rather than a carrot approach. But the reality is that in Victoria, there's an expectation that if you want business from DET schools, then you must go to an accredited site. Now, we're hopeful of working with education authorities in each state and territory, including those within the private and independent sector. And the ACA would be encouraging those organisations to actually mandate accreditation. Now, if that goes ahead in your state and territory, there'll be reasonable conversations around, a timeline that allows for that sort of information scheme to go ahead. But the ACA has always been committed to accreditation and has recommitted through this process. Thanks, Dom. Any questions that people might have?
Yeah, I got a question because a lot of us are already accredited with NATA. So in that process of liaising with school organisations and that sort of thing, is NATA an option as well?
It certainly is in Victoria, yes. So in Victoria, you can be NATA accredited and QTF, and we would have a number of members who are actually accredited with both schemes.
Yep.
Adding to that, Andrew, we've actually had more and more schools sending through paperwork from Queensland Ed stating that you have to be ATIC accredited here in Queensland for them to come to you. So we've just completed that accreditation as well.
Yeah,
So the ATIC is this is a part of the ATIC accreditation, isn't it, Joe?
it is, yes. Yeah. I should say we.
So that's my question. Like, why aren't they saying NATA is good enough? Dom, do you know?
Sorry, I didn't know if that was from me or Jay. Sorry, mate. I'm not sure on that one. It tends to change, I believe, between independent schools, Catholic schools, and Department of Education in Queensland. So I think some of it is about awareness of the different systems, but also I think sometimes it can be a matter of understanding what goes into the different accreditation systems. And this is actually a topic that's going to come up for discussion, I imagine, at the National Summit that the Outdoor Council of Australia is holding next week, which certainly has a section about accreditation, whether it's for business or for individuals in the outdoor sector. But yeah, it's an important piece of work. So this is really about what the process is in relation to these different systems. And I guess it's about comfort level for the education department or the Catholic school system or the independent school system. Jay, if you want to add anything to that.
I didn't think that question about NATA was actually for me, but as I said, our ACA members guide actually indicates to anybody who's reading the guide who is NATA accredited and who is QTF accredited. And as I said, my understanding is that the DET in Victoria accepts both. The other thing that I'll add, though, is that, and many of you may be aware of this, when we start talking about Catholic sector independent schools, one of the things that a lot of our members are really getting frustrated about is that they go through the whole process of accreditation, and that probably doesn't matter whether it's QTF or NATA, but then you find that schools, individual schools, perhaps the person who's booking the camp is starting to ask for all of the same sort of information that you've been asked for in the accreditation. So one of the things that this advisory committee wants us to push heavily is a greater level of trust in the accreditation schemes. If they accept that the scheme has asked for all of this information already and it's all online and it's all verified, an individual school shouldn't be asking for this information again. And we've heard some pretty bizarre stories in terms of how detailed this might get. And I'll tell you this one for what it's worth, but a school turned up an hour and a half late. They were doing a day program. The camp staff were stressing about how long they were going to squeeze this program in. And the lead teacher got off the bus and went around to every staff member while the kids are standing there, asking to see the working with children documentation for each staff member. Now, that is, from our point of view, something that we want to avoid like the plague.
Wow. Sounds like they're more interested in compliance than actually the activities that the provider could deliver.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there any more questions for Jay? And just to give an opportunity. No? Okay. Jay, are you happy to make those slides available?
Yes,
people?
of course.
Yeah,
of
awesome.
course. Yeah.
Okay, because I did see Tanya just joined us
Tanya's dropped in,
asked about how do we, so maybe if I can send out your slides to Tanya, and if anyone else wants a copy of them, just contact me. And yeah, that's great, mate, because I do appreciate it. It is an important topic to talk about accreditation, and part of this is obviously about the standards of our sector, particularly in relation to outdoor education, but it's also in that tourism space generally in relation to providers of outdoor activities. So thank you very much for joining us. And
Dom, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity. And the other thing is that I think Christy has put in the link there to Quality Tourism Australia. So that link to the website is there for people to log into. So thanks once again, Dom. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the day, folks.
Thanks, Jack. All right. Oh, there's the logo again. I'll just put a holding slide in there, and there's that link on the screen that Christy's just shared in the chat. So moving right along. I mentioned the Active Queenslanders forums a couple of weeks ago. These forums are still going on. Active Queenslanders Industry Alliance, which Outdoors Queensland is a member of. And actually, Christy and I are both on the board of AQIA now. So yeah, it's the organisation's about workforce development. They've hosted forums in Toowoomba, Gold Coast, Rockhampton, Mackay, Fraser Coast, I think so far. So, and then there'll be more on the locations on the screen there. Plus, I think there's a couple in Brisbane and maybe Ipswich. Ipswich is on the list there. Yeah, so there's a few more to come. The other one's Sunshine Coast that I ran out of room in my little table because I couldn't go over the top of the Outdoors Queensland logo. That was too important. You need to have a look at the AQIA website. As I see, Christy's just popped that in the chat there. I'd like to really strongly encourage attendance at those events. The outdoor sector is a really important focus for AQIA, but we don't always make our presence felt by turning up to these sorts of things. So it'd be lovely to see you there. I've been zooming into some of these forums, but I'm also going to attend some in person. So it'd be lovely to see people there. Any questions, please sing out, but otherwise we'll keep on rolling. The 10,000 Steps in Queensland National Parks Challenge. I'm not sure if Anita's on the call today from 10,000 Steps, but they're a member of Outdoors Queensland, and we're happy to let people know about good things that our members are doing. So if you're interested or if you've got something you'd like to share, please let us know. Yeah, so it's a national parks themed challenge right throughout the month of May. So the idea is you can go and virtually do I think some of the hiking trails through some of the national parks. So you might be just walking around your neighbourhood, but you're logging steps maybe at Carnarvon or different places across the state, maybe Kagari or Manduraba. Inside the outhouse. So the outhouse started as a way of connecting during the COVID shutdown, but it seems more and more to be building into a multimedia empire. Matthew Townsend joined them last Monday, this Monday just gone, the 17th. Matthew from Nature Freedom, and I think Matthew's on the call today, joined to speak about inclusion, particularly in accessibility and outdoor programming. It was a really good session. If you didn't join on Monday, I'd encourage you to have a look at the recording. I'm not sure if any of the orators from the outhouse are on the call today, whether David or Pete or Henry. No, it doesn't look like it. So anyway, the next session is the first Monday of June, which will be the 7th of June, and from the funky time of 6:13 p.m. So I encourage you to have a look at that. I'm not sure what they've got coming up for that session, but yeah, they're developing. It's a good initiative, so I'd like to support it. I mentioned last time the Brisbane City Council is doing some consultation about the Anstead bushland, which is down on the western edge of Brisbane Council. So they are seeking community input, and the survey closes the 1st of June. So I just want to flag that. There's more information. Christy's just shared the story on our website, and there's information on the council's website as well. So it's a bit of a convoluted one. So we just shared the story on our website, which has links to that. It's interesting what they're looking at doing there in relation to the future recreation. It's really 3 different sites there, so 3 different blocks of land. So it's worth having a look at if you're interested in that one. And more surveys to do. The 2021 Australian Liveability Census, and this one's actually more about your neighbourhood. So the survey closes, it says there 30th of June. And it's about giving people a say in decisions that impact their everyday. So they're saying what makes a great neighbourhood for you. And what they're trying to do is better understand livability. How's your neighbourhood performing? I did this survey with my own neighbourhood in mind, and it's it's quite interesting when you're thinking about the little spot that you frequent and what it has and what it could have and how it could be improved. And interestingly, I noticed on their website, you can take that survey in English or Mandarin. So if you want to extend yourself, you can maybe have a go at a different language, which might make for some interesting responses once they tally it all up. Does anyone have any questions? I usually rattle along through some of these things, but. So this one's a hot topic in the education space, the Australian Curriculum Review, the public consultation from ACARA. I guess I'm being a little bit provocative there about the picture of the kids on the computers and then picture of people actually outdoors. But I guess it specifically says on the ACARA website that the health and physical education is about students strengthening their sense of self and learning to build and manage satisfying, respectful relationships, developing resilience and empathy as participants in their own and others' well-being. So I guess a big part of this is about making sure that outdoor education and outdoor learning is incorporated in this, and through the public consultation, I would suggest it's an important time to make sure your voice is heard in relation to that and the place that outdoor education, outdoor activities have in the school curriculum. So just wanted to flag that. Christy shared the link again in the chat, but yeah, I think that one closes. Does someone know? I think it might, I haven't got it on the screen. I think it might be the end of June, but I might be wrong on that one. Does anyone know when that one closes? Oh, a lot of silence. I'm sure someone in Canberra is very aware of it, but yeah, it'll be on the website. I'm sure they wouldn't forget to tell us that. Rolling right along. Queensland's COVID safe future. So the roadmap, it hasn't been updated since our last session. So there's quite a few changes in the last couple of months, but nothing since the last one. So I guess the big changes, I'll just highlight these for people who maybe weren't with us last time. The outdoor rec activity providers COVID safe plan, we actually no longer need to follow the protocols in that just for provision of outdoor recreation activities. So it's all about now just the general measures like physical distancing, hygiene, enhanced cleaning processes. And the return to play guide, I understand, has been updated as well, which is great. And we've published a bulletin a little while ago. I think it was the 19th of April. I've got that on the screen, so I hope it was. And you don't even have to, outdoor organisations don't even have to collect contact tracing information, which I think is quite amazing. But if you use a QR code or check-in app, you could keep continuing to do that, which might also give your customers more confidence, I guess, that everything's sweet, even though technically you don't need to do it. So if you've got any indoor spaces, if you're using them as part of delivering the outdoor activities, you still need to follow the occupant density requirements, keep contact information for that section, and have physical distancing as much as possible and other public health directions. So yeah, I think it is a great thing to have some of those things in place, even if you don't specifically need to follow the contact tracing, etc. The outdoor education plan, we've got that update now in early April about staff being able to service multiple groups, which we asked for months ago. Also, the cleaning and hygiene protocols were amended. So toilet facilities can be shared by different client groups, but not showers and change rooms. And there's also some changes to wording about commingling of groups, and also an option to follow the retail food services industry plan or the hotel, clubs, nightclubs, etc. industry plan for food preparation, cleaning, hygiene, and sanitisation protocols. So that change, actually, the A Hotels plan doesn't require disinfecting tables and chairs between every use. So I'm still waiting on the outdoor ed plan to be updated to put it, or we are still waiting, I should say, to get it in line with the latest public health direction and the roadmap. And so, but because we got those changes approved already, it should just be an update with the new changes. But a couple of requests or clarifications we have sought. Self-service buffets. So we've specifically asked Queensland Health in relation to this one. So the public health direction, I'll put it there on the screen, specifically says, if you're running a restricted business activity or undertaking that serves food, you must not allow food to be served by a self-service buffet. So we've asked for clarification from Queensland Health on whether outdoor ed providers are restricted businesses, activities or undertakings. It specifically says on the website, which is intended to explain the public health direction, it gives the example that self-service buffets will be allowed at a work site, school or residential aged care facility. So I have made the point in my correspondence about it that the fact that schools are included there and residential aged care facilities, but schools particularly, is potentially going to cause some confusion in relation to outdoor ed facilities. So I haven't got an answer on that one yet. I'm waiting for a formal answer. I'm not super confident, to be honest, but I don't know. I wasn't confident that they'd take away contact tracing in relation to provision of outdoor activities. So you never know what we're going to get here. But I think they're going to come back and say that outdoor ed providers are still considered restricted under the public health direction that deals with accommodation, even though it's not specifically mentioned in the examples. And that's why we still have to follow protocols in the outdoor ed plan. And that plan hasn't been included in that list that's not required. Any questions or comments on that one?
So potentially that would provide a competitive advantage to certain sites over others, a government mandated competitive advantage, because there are some facilities like ours that are considered as schools, and therefore that wording suggests they can do self-service. And the self-service for us is costing us 25% extra in labour costs. So
not being able to do self-service, you mean, Andrew? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, I'm making that point. I have certainly raised it and I'm waiting on an answer to it. And I think within Sport and Rec, there's certainly an understanding of the point that's being made. And the other point I made was all the other states, as I understand it, have allowed self-service to return. I don't think that argument is actually washing too much. It is a decision at the Chief Health Officer level, and I don't think just because another state's doing something, I think as we've seen over the last 12 months or a bit more, our Chief Health Officer is sometimes willing to do things a little bit differently if that's the belief in relation to keeping people safe. And yeah, so I think we just have to wait on that one, but I'm certainly chasing up in relation to it and trying to make sure we get an answer as soon as possible. But as we all know, this stuff does take some time. So, yeah.
I did notice, Dom, that school camps are actually listed specifically under the restricted businesses still at this stage.
So have they updated that to include school camps in there now, Benoni?
Under the restricted businesses table, it actually states school camps.
Ah, okay. I think that's a change then, because it wasn't there before, as far as I know, unless I missed it, but I hadn't seen that, so I might have to have a little look at that.
Yeah, because
we've never been listed before, so I haven't actually seen that. I'll have a look, but we've never actually appeared in that column.
Yeah, that's why we went digging, hoping we'd be able to push the school angle as well, but then saw that school camps is actually in italics listed. So
it's just down here. It's actually listed as an example. So underneath where it said exempt are the likes of aged care and so on, and it says in brackets and italics, not school camps. So
Right. Maybe
that's
this
where
is
you'll
the-
find it.
So you're talking about on the website rather than in the public health direction, Danny and Benoni?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
There's a
definitely
big-
have a look
big
at that.
link. Yeah.
So what I've put on the screen there, I took that off the website yesterday. That box that says, you know, you can use the check-in app, blah, blah, blah. That box I took off that website yesterday. So maybe it's been updated since then, and that sounds like it's going to answer our question, but which is somewhat disappointing.
As I said, it's more of an example of not being included as exempt from being a restricted business. It doesn't say school camps is restricted. It says it nominates some that aren't restricted, and then says but not excludes school camps.
Right.
It's been there for at least 2 weeks that I know of.
Really? Okay. Well, I missed that, mate. So I'll put my hand up for that one. I hadn't seen that. So, yeah. All right. I'll definitely be having a look at that later on. And this is me picking up my pen and writing a post-it note to check restricted activity school camp. Sorry, just bear with me because sometimes I have to talk as I write. So the other one, unless someone maybe we need to do a little bit more investigation, and hopefully I'll have an answer for sure on that one by next fortnight, or if not before, if before that, we'll put a bulletin out to update people. But the other one that a question came up is about overseas travel. So the Outdoor Ed Providers Industry Plan specifically says you can't enter the venue if you've travelled overseas in the previous 14 days. So I actually had a question about the travel bubble with New Zealand. And if a staff member or a patron or a contractor has been to New Zealand and comes back, which is in the travel bubble, should they be excluded? And technically under the current wording in the plan, it actually says that, yeah, you've got to exclude anyone, they're not allowed to enter. But what I've asked is if that can be updated to say overseas travel other than from a safe travel zone country. And you can see there's a document which Christy's just shared the link to, Quarantine for International Arrivals Direction. It specifically sets a list of safe travel zone countries, and that list at the moment is New Zealand, and that's it. So I've asked them to update that, and I've sort of suggested you might have to update that for every single industry plan. And I'm waiting for an answer on that one too, but all the industry plans have to be updated anyway. So it probably should have been updated when they did their last one, but I've just flagged that one with them as well. I don't think there's going to be any argument about it because it doesn't make sense to me if someone goes to New Zealand, literally you could go there for a holiday right now, come back and go to school camp in week 1 of the term after the school holidays. Surely you shouldn't be excluding people because they've been just across to New Zealand. So we've got this system at the moment with the bubble. So I just wanted to flag that's another one that there's a little bit of work in the background going on in relation to that one. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that? I think it's a common sense approach to it, but I just wanted to flag it. I just wanted to ask if you're interested in contributing to a review of these sessions. So we actually put a fair bit of time and effort every fortnight into providing these sessions. I don't just turn up and blather on for an hour. That's what I try to avoid. So we never made any decisions, but I guess my question is really about, we'd like your opinions from you guys, particularly people who show up and contribute, but also we're probably going to look at ways to get some ideas from people who aren't joining us currently. A few questions, I guess, and you're happy to, if you want to pop things in the chat or anyone wants to have it speak up, but what can we do differently? Should we have more guests, different topics, less of me talking? I'd like that. Is fortnightly still the right frequency? Is an hour the right length? You know, are we better off having a 90-minute session once a month, or maybe a 30-minute session every other fortnight? I don't know. So I just sort of wanted to find out. Maybe we'd be better off having separate sessions on specific topics, you know, once a month or something like that. So does anyone have any comments, constructive criticism? Maybe I need to get my hair done special each week as I normally do. Anything?
I think
No?
it's really beneficial.
Yeah.
But maybe, like, I feel if, like, one of the main reasons is just to get that update on industry plans and that sort of thing. And, you know, maybe if we went to a monthly format, but have the option if there's a significant change to the industry plan of, you know, an emergency one or something like that might be an idea.
Yep. Okay. I just saw Tanya just popped in the chat. Maybe I could send out the agenda before the meeting. Yeah, that's not a bad point, Tanya. Like we certainly put a very general outline, but you know, sometimes you might find it's hard to believe. Sometimes our agenda is a little bit fluid, literally up until the day of. But we could send out an indicative one, that's for sure. That would also spur me into getting the agenda done earlier, wouldn't it? Getting the presentation sorted in advance. More than happy to do that. I mean, there'll probably be standing items, hopefully not forever, but about the COVID safe plans and updates and requested changes. As anyone who's attended regularly, the agenda doesn't vary a great deal, but I'm trying to refresh it with new information and not just bang on about the same matters all the time. Thanks very much, Jay. I thought Jay's just going to have to leave us shortly, but Jay also put his contact details in the chat there. So if anyone wants to speak to him about the accreditation, please get in touch with Jay. And I do appreciate having Jay join us and other guest speakers. So it's certainly something that I want to look at having more of. And I'd really be interested if any of you have suggestions in relation to guests or topics that you'd like to see. You don't have to say it now, you can if you like, or just send me an email. And yes, we'll see what we can do within reason. I don't think we're going to get Oprah in a hurry, but you never know your luck. So I don't know, maybe Barack and Michelle Obama could join us one fortnight, but maybe we should keep it a bit more local too. Any other comments, questions? More of my funny jokes, less of my funny jokes? You haven't heard any funny jokes? I don't know. Alrighty. Well, that is the agenda, but the bottom line says any other topics for discussion. So does anyone have any other burning topics that you'd like to speak about? Oh no, Tanya says all is good, including jokes. I've warned people about encouraging that.
I've got one for you, Dom, just as a farewell.
Yes, mate.
Yeah, have you heard about the restaurant called Karma? There's no menu. You get what you deserve.
Oh, nice. Thanks, mate. Yeah, is that all right if we use that one, or do we have to credit you?
I'm really delighted to get a smile from Leah out of that one.
Well, I'm surprised people didn't unmute themselves and groan.
There's more where that came from.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's actually paying the attendance fee for the Jay and Don stand-up hour, but yeah, thanks again for joining us, mate, and it is greatly appreciated. I don't know, does anyone else have any other than jokes, or you can tell a joke if you like, but is there any other topics, particularly in relation to outdoors stuff, that you'd like to say? I should have mentioned, and I didn't. I actually attended the OEAQ Fools Forum, Facilitators of Outdoor Learning, down at Brisbane Grammar School site at Lake Mulgara in the Scenic Rim last weekend, and it was a terrific forum. They did the whole thing outdoors. They didn't have a single PowerPoint presentation. It was literally a large group of people getting around on the Brisbane Grammar School property down there, and it was terrific. We got great weather and yeah, really good as a host. So yeah, it was a terrific day on Saturday last week. So they made us walk up a mountain, but that's okay. We love doing stuff like that. So Tanya, did you want to ask that question out loud, or do you want me to read it out?
Sure. Thank you. I because there's been recent announcements through the budget and that around training and encouraging training and workplaces, I wasn't sure if anyone's accessing or has accessed training or training pathways for traineeships for those that are working in outdoor ed, and how successful that's been for them, or if there's anything they can suggest. I don't know if I'm asking the question right, but because when I was looking about 6 months ago, there was Job Maker had come up, but there was no funding specific to this industry for outdoor ed at that time. There certainly was for mental health and other trades, but I don't know if that's changed now.
Yeah, it seems to wax and wane a little bit on that one. I'm not sure. Has anyone had any experience with the accreditation? Sorry, the accreditation. Sort of comments with the trainee schemes from the government funding.
Yeah, we've got 6 staff on BAC. The one comment I would make about it is the money takes an eternity to come through. In fact, we're still waiting on some of it for staff who started in January. So
you've got to be able to carry it.
Just be aware, you've got to be able to carry it, yeah.
So what is it, mate? BAC?
Yeah, so it's that building apprenticeship capacity, I think it is. So basically it's the 50% subsidy of traineeships.
Okay, and that applies to any industry?
On that we're signing people up on MEGT.
Sorry, mate, another acronym. What's that one?
Yeah, it's a company. I don't know what it stands for, but MEGT, management employment group training, perhaps.
Oh, okay, so they're sort of
they're like an apprenticeship provider. Yeah,
right. Yeah, there's a few other organisations who do that, and they cover off on a lot of the paperwork, I guess, and that side of things, and recruiting the trainees.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, you asked about who was asking. That was Andrew from QCCC who was asking about the Department of Education in Queensland and the accreditation. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew would mind me dobbing him in on that one.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, that might be pretty much it. I think I understand why everyone wants to finish a bit early today, so you're not saying too much. Because, of course, the school strike for climate action is on today. And the event in the Brisbane CBD starts at 1 o'clock. I think if I get all my work done on time, Christy might even let me knock off early and head into town for the march. So we'll see how we go. Our next session's Friday, the 4th of June. And there's also a whole heap of resources on our website. Please have a look at those. And yeah, big thank you to everyone, particularly volunteers out there who in National Volunteer Week, but you should be thanked every week as far as I'm concerned. And I'd just like to say thanks to everyone for joining us today. And thanks to Christy for co-hosting with me and doing a stellar job. So thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, we might sign off there.